Hello boys and girls, a little bit of a different video, not actually out in Dartmoor, but very prevalent to Dartmoor in this video, and absolutely shocking, really disgusting. You know, this will leave a sour taste in your mouth if you are an outdoorsy kind of person, especially one that spends time in Dartmoor like myself. Have done for my whole life, basically since I was a very young child. Absolutely love it out there. It's was the last place in England and Wales where you can legally wild camp in the permitted areas, which are shown on the map on the Dartmoor National Park Authority's website. But really sad day. Well, not sad if you're a filthy, stinking rich landowner that just wants to get rid of us peasants. So yeah, I'm sure that you've gathered, obviously the title of the video probably gives it away, but talking about the court case which happened on Friday gone, which was Friday 13th of January 2023, where Alexander and Diana Darwell went to court, to the High Court in London, and they appealed against the fact that wild camping was legal. It's been legal for many years. People have done it for a lot longer, but in the 1985 Dartmoor Commons Act, section 10, then it basically states that you're allowed to use common land for recreational activity. They've argued against this, which we will go into in a bit, but I think just before we go into that, it would be good obviously to understand a little bit of history, maybe a few bits of terminology, so that you fully appreciate the magnitude of this story and the impact that it's going to have on thousands, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people, normal people like you and I, not the rich folk. You know, normal people like you and I are the ones who are going to be affected by this. So yeah, a little bit of history, a little bit of background. I think it's important with anything to fully understand something. You need to know the history, you need to know the background behind it. So that's what I'm going to try and cover as briefly as possible, but hopefully enough that you understand if you don't already. So the Dartmoor Commons Act 1985, section 10, as previously mentioned, that's what this whole case revolves around. It's the linchpin of the case that the Darboes have managed to bring to court and successfully win their case. So apologies for reading, but obviously I want to get this right. So section 10 of the 1985 Act reads, subject to the provisions of this Act and compliance to Commons with all rules, regulations or bylaws relating to the Commons and for the time being enforced, the public shall have a right of access to the Commons on foot and on horseback for the purpose of open air recreation, and a person who enters on the Commons for that purpose without breaking or damaging any wall, fence, hedge, gate or other thing, or whom is on the Commons for that purpose having so entered, shall not be treated as a trespasser on the Commons or incur any other liability by reason only of so entering or being on the Commons. Quite clearly says you're allowed on common land. Well, I say we'll go into how they've managed to swindle, if you will, their way around this in a little bit. But so that is the Commons Act. The next important thing I think to understand, and this is a phrase, a terminology that's battered around quite a lot. You've probably seen it on maps. There's this common, that common. You've probably heard common land, especially pertaining to this court case. What is common land? Well, this is where it gets a little bit damning, really, for the likes of me and you that disagree with this decision. I actually looked up common lands on the gov.uk website last night, and that reads, common land is owned, for example, by a local council, privately or by the National Trust. You usually have the right to roam on it, This means you can use it for certain activities like walking and climbing. Some common land has different rights, so you may be able to use it for other activities. For example, horse riding. You cannot camp on common land without the owner's permission, light a fire or have a barbecue, hold a festival or other event without permission, drive across it without permission unless you have the right to access your property. Now, you see that why I said it's a bit damning, because it blatantly states you are not allowed to camp on common land. But when was this updated? You know, was that updated after the court case, or has that always been the case? I don't know, so I didn't look at that website before this court case took place, so I can't state. But the sentence before, some common land has different rights, so you may be able to use it for other activities, for example, horse riding. Now, it's not excluding camping in that one if that particular piece of common land has different rights, which Dartmoor, it's always been accepted that wild camping within the permitted areas is acceptable. So annoying, so annoying. So the Dartmoor National Parks Authority's website actually differs. It didn't used to say this, but it does now. I assume it's been updated, obviously, since the court case. It says that you should seek permission from the landowner before wild camping. That's another thing I think needs to be clarified, wild camping. So wild camping, what has been permissible on Dartmoor for many years is basically hiking, backpacking camping. One or two people in a very small tent, you're hiking through somewhere. It's generally accepted that you set up as late as you can at night, you're off in the morning, you leave no trace, you don't have fires, obviously you don't leave rubbish, you don't damage any property, you don't disturb livestock. Common sense, really, that's all it is, common sense. You just try and be a good person while you're on Dartmoor and respect the nature, respect Dartmoor, respect the landowner, respect the property, just have a little bit of respect and a little bit of decency. That has been a problem. It's not been done in certain circumstances, which again I will come on to later. That's quite annoying. That ruins it for the rest of us, the minority that ruin it for the rest of us. So just for a little bit of context, I've actually done some research into who owns Dartmoor, what greedy souls own what percentage of a national park. I will read this because there is no way I can commit this to memory, but let's whip through them, shall we? So Dartmoor Park is approximately 365 square miles or 236,000 acres. 47% of this is claimed by just 14 owners. Half of Dartmoor, just 14 people, or for families, entities, whatever you want to classify it as. So Duchy of Cornwall owns 67,000 acres, Maristow Estate 11,500, Southwest Water 6,000, the Darwells 4,000, Dartmoor National Park Authority 3,500, the MOD, Military of Defence 3,500, Forestry Commission 3,500, Stonewood Limited 3,000, Harrow Family 2,500, Howell Family 2,000 acres, the Trenier family, 1,500 acres, Russell Ashford, 1,000 acres. Now, I've obviously pulled this information from websites, I'm assuming it's correct. It seemed pretty legit. I will put up at the end some credits as to the resources that I've used. Obviously, just thank you to them for providing the information. Now, those of you mathematicians, the Carol Vordermans of you out there will have noticed that that totals 108,000 acres out of the 236. The rest of it I couldn't find any information on, so apologies for that, but it just doesn't seem to be out there. Believe me, I've spent hours and hours researching this. That's as much as I can find. Right, so into the grit of the video, the actual point, the court case. Basically, that Commons Act that I spoke about in 1985, what the Darwell's lawyers have argued is that camping is not a recreational activity. What is it? If it's not a recreational activity. That's what they argued, and Sir Julian Fawkes, Chancellor of the High Court, agreed with them. By the way, Sir Julian Fawkes, 2019, was accused of having quite a biased interpretation and connection into a particular case, but I'm sure that wasn't the case this time. I'm not inferring that in the slightest. So yeah, basically they argued that it's not recreational activity. They've said that the reason that they have done this is because they want to clarify exactly where they stand with their legal rights on their land, because there has been instances of livestock being disturbed by campers. I'll come on to this in the next section, which I'm sure it has, but I say that's the next bit. Bearing in mind that on their lands they hold pheasant shooting and deer shooting and holiday rentals. So campers in tents are going to disturb livestock, but firing loads of guns and killing animals everywhere is not. Go figure. Right, so I thought just to try and break the sadness of this video, then me and Mandy, sister, would do a little skit to try our interpretation of what might have happened as the Darwells discussed how they were going to go about and why they were going to go about bringing this matter to court. I'd just like to point out that this is for comedy, so I don't want to get sued off of the Darwells. They obviously like taking people to court for stupid things. I don't want to be one of those, so it's comedy, it's not truth. Maybe, but I can't confirm that. So, without further ado.
Oh, Alex, my darling, how it pains me so deeply to fathom that there may be an unkempt person within 10 miles of our delightful and respectable establishment.
Dee Dee, my love, pray you fret not about these heathens, for I, Alexander Darwell the Great, shall rid our lands once and for all of this scourge, not worthy of enjoying their pitiful existences.
Doth elaborate, Alexander the Great. How will thee succeed in such a task?
Well, my love, not only am I filthy stinking rich, I'm as cunning as a fox. Also, I can afford really good lawyers and the odd brown envelope.
But, Alex, we are honest, snooty toffs. You are not suggesting that we bribe or influence any officials that could sway things in our favour?
No, my little Dartmoor flower. When you get as rich as we are and pay people off, it is called donating. You remember, Dee Dee, like I have donated to UKIP, the Conservative Party, and Anthony Mangonel, the current MP for Totnes. Bribes, poppycock.
Oh, darling, thank goodness you have put my mind at rest. I do on occasion forget that being this filthy rich means we can trample on the insignificant people of this world. Oh, I apologise, my love. I meant not to refer to them as people. Should we call them, peasants?
Although that may be a little flattering for their lowly status, we will settle on peasants.
Thank you, and beg your pardon, sir, but what Dartmoor flower do I resemble to you?
Shush now, Dee Dee. I've never set foot on that horrid, wet and wild place, so how should I know any of its flowers? Just open your ears to my genius. The Dartmoor Commons Act of 1985 states that common land can be used for recreational purposes. This camping business that these peasants seem to enjoy partaking in is not recreational.
Apologies, my dear, if ignorance has succumbed me, but pray tell, what is camping?
Oh, 'tis a horrid thing of nightmares that we were threatened with as children. Apparently, one ventures off of the beaten track into the wilderness and erects some kind of shelter. From what I've heard, it is rather crude, just fabric-based with basic post structure, barely enough room to swing a corgi.
Oh my gosh, it sounds absolutely dreadful, my dear. We must stop these peasants participating in this activity at once.
Indeed, Dee Dee, we must. That is why I've instructed our lawyers to tell Jules, High Court Judge Sir Julian Fawkes, to agree that this barbaric act is not recreational.
Oh, darling, your compassion for these beings is overwhelming. Your compassion knows no ends. But what if the Dartmoor National Park Association lawyers claim that these peasants enjoy this activity?
At dinner last week, me and Jules, that I heard from a friend determined that the best possible person to judge the case is Sir Julian Fawkes. That thing with him being biased in a case in 2019 is utter codswallop. And do not forget, my dearest, those pesky campers are affecting the livestock on our estate. Those poor sheep and cows are being traumatised by tents. The noise that the zippers make is deafening them. The peg hose left in the ground may as well be potholes for hoofs.
But Alex, we organise pheasant and deer shooting events on our land. Does that not affect the livestock?
Oh my God, woman. Do you not know that livestock become more fertile with the sound of gunfire? Randy buggers they are. But those tents, well, they decrease the population by 52% a month. Greta Thunberg told me so. Okay, so hope you enjoyed that. Hopefully that brightened up the video a little bit on what is a particularly sad and angering subject. But the long and short of it, as I'm sure that you've read, is that they did win. Now, even though they went to court and went into legal proceedings pertaining to their land, their 4,000 acres, which is the Blatchford estate on the south of Dartmoor, Stormore, that area, then they didn't specifically go to court about their land. They went to court about the bylaw in the Dartmoor Commons Act 1985. So if you just read into that a little bit, and not even a lot, not in depth, that means that this ban on wild camping, because it's not just about their land, it's about the actual Commons Act, it applies to the whole of Dartmoor, or all of the common land on Dartmoor. So although they're the only ones that have kicked up any fuss about it, this applies across the board, really. So that's why the DNPA, Dartmoor National Parks Authority, is advising that you seek permission from any landowner for your camping. Now, hopefully a lot of the other landowners, if not all of them, are actually decent people, and they know that 90% of campers, if not more, we respect the land. We love Dartmoor and we just want to go and enjoy it. No, we won't leave rubbish, leave no trace, take nothing but photos, leave nothing but footprints. That's how it should be, and most of us do that. There is the odd idiot, which I will come on to in a minute. But yeah, the long and short of it, you're not allowed to camp legally on Dartmoor without seeking the landowner's permission. Sad times, very sad times. So yeah, on to my next point, which we will title Idiots. Idiots that ruin it for the rest of us. Now, the Darwells, they've raised a point. I don't know whether this is true what they're saying. I've got no reason to believe that they're lying, so I'm sure that at some point some campers have affected negatively the livestock on the land due to their behaviour and their actions. It's absolutely disgusting and despicable. And it's those idiots, that minority, that ruin it for the rest of us. And oh my God, just grow up. And I blame a lot of this on lockdown. Dartmoor, the vast majority of the time, the people you see on Dartmoor are people that love it, are people that respect it, treat it correctly, go up there, have a lovely day out, have a lovely camp. Like I've said, don't leave any rubbish, all of that, the score, how it is. And that's what should be happening, that's generally what does happen. You get your little congregations of the Plymouth Chavs, the Plymouth Massive, I'm Plymouth myself, so I think I've every right to say that. Cadover Bridge and Barrator, you go up there and yeah, there's quite a lot of idiots up there, but they always used to say to those kind of areas they wouldn't venture into the proper moor. It's a little bit too wildernessy, too far away from the city for them. But because of lockdown, because they can't go off to Benidorm on their all-inclusives and whatever they usually do, then they ventured further into the moor. Fogging tour, when I went up there last summer, or it might have been the summer before, I was so busy, and it was like a bloody beach, and effing and blinding and barbecues everywhere, you know, beer cans. I walked, again, not a couple of years ago, but I walked from Shaw Prior Cadover Crossroads to Cadover Bridge. It was as a leg of a walk. No exaggeration, there was hundreds of cans of Red Bull and energy drinks and that in McDonald's wrappers just thrown out onto the verges. You know, for God's sake, keep it in your bloody Nissan Micra GTI and put it in a bin when you get home. You idiots ruin it for the rest of us. You know, it's disgusting. It's despicable. Absolutely despicable. And yeah, so I blame that a lot to do with it, and I feel sorry for the Darbos, you know, if their land has been mistreated. But you can't put the actions of a very, very small minority, a very small percentage in the grand scheme of things, you can't punish us all with the rest of it by stopping it. You know, like, people shoplift. What do they do? Ban shopping? People crash cars. What do they do? Ban driving? You know, there's a little bit of give and take. You know, target those people, because at the end of the day, with the trespass laws, then the no wild camping is a civil matter. It's not actually a legal offence. Those people, if they're, you know, destroying lands, you know, damaging land with their barbecues and breaking things and that's actually a criminal offence. So just go after those individuals. Don't take it out on us. You know, we respect your land. We always have done, always will do, you know. So, legal implications in summary, and what I personally take from this and plan to do going forward. So, you know, like I've explained, basically this does cover the whole of Dartmoor, even though it was only the Dartmoors that went to court over it. So, I mean, if you want to do things by the book, like the Dartmoor National Park Authority's website says, you should seek permission from the landowner. Now, this is a big thing that really annoys me. How do you do that? You know, there's no websites. The Dartmoor National Park Authority's website actually states that they will not give out information of individual landowners. Has Mr. Darwell got a hotline that you can phone him on? You know, hundreds of people a day, and he's going to vet them by phone call to see whether they're respectable campers and they're allowed to camp on his land, or whether they're scallywags and they're not. Now, how does this whole process work? It's just not really been thought through at all. It's all done on a whim. You know, it's just some rich idiot, in my opinion, having a little paddy fit that us commoners, us peasants are on his land, and he doesn't want us there. He wants his land to make him money. He wants to do pheasant shoots. He wants to do deer shoots. He wants holiday rents. You know, the type of people that I should imagine he'll be renting his holiday lets to, you know, they're not like me and you. No, they're the ones that are drinking thousands of pounds bottle of wine with their little pinkies out. You know, so that they don't want to see the likes of us traipsing through their land, looking all muddy and wet and bedraggled, you know, on a rainy, misty day. They want to look out and see Dartmoor from the comfort of their house. They don't want to go out on Dartmoor. It's wet and it's cold and it's a miserable place. Why would they want to go out there? But anyway, I digress. So yeah, a really important thing to understand is the two types of law, of legality. I don't understand this fully, I'm not a lawyer, but basically what I gather is you got criminal law and you've got civil law. Now, criminal law is something that is a criminal offence, burglary, robbery, assault, murder, blah, 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 blah. That the police will arrest you for, they will fine you for, they will take you to court, they will put you in prison, they will do whatever comes of the legal proceedings. Then you have civil law. Now, civil law, again, I don't fully understand it. I'm not a lawyer, but basically it's not criminal. So the police won't actively chase you for it. A really good example, and obviously very good for this particular video, in this particular case, is trespass. Now, trespass is a civil matter. So if you are on someone's land, then basically the landowner comes and has to ask you to leave their land. If you're not performing any criminal acts such as damaging their property, then the police are not really going to get involved. Like, so I say they have to ask you, and what I would really suggest is to just be polite, just play the game, don't upset the apple cart. So I think moving forward, I will be continuing personally to wild camp on Dartmoor. If a landowner approaches me and asks me to leave his land, I will be very polite and I will say yes, no problem at all, and I will move on. I think that's basically all we can do in this situation. The Dartmoor National Park Authority are getting together an appeal, which hopefully they'll be successful. I'm not holding my breath because they're going against a rich person and the Chancellor of the High Court. And they don't look looking stupid today. They're not going to go back on themselves. They're not going to backtrack and say, oh yeah, I was actually wrong, but I think that they're right now. And they just make themselves look stupid, and they're not going to do that. So the chances of appeal actually working, I personally think are very slim. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. So yeah, I mean, my advice, it's not legal advice, but what I'm going to do personally, keep camping, but keep being respectful. Take nothing but photos, leave nothing but footprints, leave no trace. Take your rubbish with you, pitch up late, leave early. Don't be in massive groups, don't be loud, don't be boisterous, don't be having parties, don't be having fires and all that. And yeah, just be respectful. Just a quick one on the fires, and for any of you that watch my videos will notice I do have fires whilst I'm out sometimes. And I know it's a bit of a touchy subject amongst more people, if you will. Not more as in multiple, more as in Dartmoor. But yeah, I have fires. My own little personal rule I've got to myself is that I will only light a open fire if there is an existing fire pit there. So the ground's already damaged, there's stones there. I will only collect dead wood from the floor or dead standing trees. We'll never ever damage a live tree to collect firewood. And then I also always carry a twig burner, which I will show you a photo of. These are really, really cool little things. Very, very lightweight. You fold them down, you just slot them together. And so what that does is, obviously you can burn twigs, you pull smaller timber, but it keeps it off the ground. So if you put that on a rock especially, you leave nothing, you will damage nothing. Obviously I'm always very sensible with it. If there's a load of dry leaves around, dry twigs, it's the middle of summer, dry bracken, don't light a bloody fire, you're asking for trouble. So yeah, my personal view is fires are okay if you're sensible and you know what you're doing with them. Again though, there's idiots that ruin it for the rest of us. So yeah, I hope that video was informed you a little bit more if you're unclear as to what is the goings on at the moment on Dartmoor. But all in all, really sad times, really sad times. This is just another example of the rich taking away another of the very few privileges, if you will, that we've got. I mean, the thing you've got to think at the end of the day as well is none of this land was theirs in the first place. They just took it. So not this particular generation, but in generations past. The Crown decided that they wanted, 70,000 acres of Dartmoor. So they just went, yeah, that's ours. And then other rich people went, yeah, that's ours. It wasn't even theirs in the first place, and somehow that's been forgotten through history. And now they own it, and they sell it. They make money off of selling it. They make money off of doing business on it. It wasn't even theirs. How can you just say that bit of land's mine? It's not right. It's not right on so many levels. Really, really does get me angry. But I hope that was informative, and I really hope that the Dartmoor National Park Authority are successful with their appeal. Good luck to you. Good luck. Please leave any comments. Be happy to discuss this, and if I've missed something or any of you know anything more than I do, then I'd really be very, very interested in hearing. So thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and I will see you soon.